Crossing borders, an age-old journey of hope, opportunity, and change, comes with hidden dangers for many. Not all who crosses find safety or opportunity. Behind the movement lies the harsh reality of modern slavery. Welcome to Across Borders on Soup News Television. I am Grace Komolafe. Today we mark the International Day for the Abolition of Slavery, a day that forces us to look not only backwards, but around us. Slavery did not end in a single moment. It simply changed its language and its methods. And to understand how we got here and why it still happens, we must connect the past with the present. And of course, we have guests that are going to be joining us today with two different experiences. Together, they will help us bridge the past and the present and understand what true abolition must mean today. Let's start the conversation with His Royal Majesty King Prophet Herbert Calvin Hartman. He is an African-American slave trade descendant in Nigeria, the fourth king and father of the returnees to Africa and Africans around the world. But before we bring him in to start this conversation, let's take a quick break. When we come back, the conversation will begin. Stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for joining us. This is Across Borders and today is the International Day for the Abolition of Slavery. And to have this conversation, we will be having King Hartman. King Hartman, such a pleasure having you on the program, Your Royal Majesty. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure for me to be on this show. I'm so happy. I feel so grateful to be with you all.
Yes.
Not only on the show, but getting the opportunity to share what I have with the world. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Today we want to talk about the abolition of slavery, history, identity, and today's reality. So like I said, we're going to start with you. We'll have two guests today. But of course, starting with you, as an African-American slave trade descendant of the transatlantic slave trade, what personal encounter, have shaped your conviction on the abolition of slave trade?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Yes, I'm coming from the 16 Atlantic slave trade descendant. I'm the descendant of the 16 Atlantic slave trade ancestors. And I want to start like this, because I don't want slavery to be a scar just on the African continent for the African people. I strongly believe that slavery was a divine act. I strongly believe it was a divine act, because if it weren't for slavery, we would not have been able to achieve what we have achieved as Black people from Africa, what we have achieved throughout the world. We have done this with no gunshots or no bombs, no bombs, but we actually have all of Africa, the Americas. We actually have the Americas. Now, we were taken out of Africa like cattle or ancestors, and I use the word we because genetically speaking, the genes are still in all of us who are on the continent of the Americas and Europe and so forth. And we were taken there by force, and we were taken there like cattle on those continents. But today, because of slavery, we are controlling now the Caribbean, which is on the American continent. We have South America. We have the second largest Black country on the American continent, which is Brazil. We have the United States of America. So slavery comes in a kind of a way that if it weren't for slavery, we would not have been able to establish ourselves, because we are not a people of war. We are not a people who go with dominance. We are never in history to be a people who went and take over any country in the world. But because of slavery, and it's a divine act, today we are managing countries out of Africa, where if we were to fight for it with guns and bombs, putting scientists together to develop all these dangerous weapons, we probably would not have achieved that, and we would have wiped humanity out of the face of the earth. Now we are doing that too by balancing the species. And along with that, along with slavery, slavery give us many other races, many other groups attached to us now. We got the mulattoes, we got the Douglas, we have the Treglers, we got the Chinatones. We have all different kinds of people now through the effect of slavery. And that's the reason why I branded it a divine act. Because if it weren't for these acts, all these different groups that we're seeing rising up all over the world would not, we would not have had these groups at all. So the blacks really are actually the full creation of all these different groups. So I would call us the demigods of Africa. And we are the African descendants, the
Okay.
one with the dark skin, caused these
Okay.
things to happen. So
Okay.
talk about slavery. That's a little contribution I want to contribute towards slavery. I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as a divine act. Yes, some things happened that was not pleasant to the eyes, not tasteful to the flesh and all of that, but still at the same time, if we don't see it as a divine act, then we would have hatred for each other.
Okay.
I would hate my brothers and my sisters on the African continent if we don't see it that way. So I'm actually teaching that way that slavery was and is a divine act. We are still in slavery. Mentally, we are still in slavery. Africans are still in slavery
Okay,
mentally.
we're going to come to
And
that. Let me ask you about how you got clarity. So your ancestry ties directly to the history of the transatlantic slave, which you have mentioned, and you have chosen Nigeria as home. How would you describe this journey of identity and belonging, and the moment you first gained clarity about your ancestral roots?
I think from what you're saying or what you're asking me right now, if I find my ancestries of Nigerian descent or anything like that, it would be difficult for me to actually um, answer that question because I've never taken a scientific test to know where my people came from, the ones that I came out from, where they actually came from, because they came from all over Africa. But for some strange reason, we call it spiritual. For some strange reason, I visited a lot of countries. Also, I visited other countries other than Nigeria in Africa. And when I came into Nigeria, I feel my spirit was actually gladdened and welcomed in Nigeria. Yes, everywhere in the world you go, you would find good and bad people. But Nigeria is where I feel like I'm at home. And since I came to Nigeria, after visiting 56 countries in the world, Nigeria is the only country that I feel comfortable in. With all what is going on in Nigeria, I still feel Nigeria is home. Yes, Nigeria is a populated country and one of the most populated countries in Africa. And things are happening in Nigeria. Some Nigerians don't even know about it. Some have never seen it. They only heard of it. And things are happening in Nigeria. But things are happening too in the United States of America. Things are happening too in Canada. Things are happening all over the world in Russia. All over you can think about people are dying. And anywhere you have a population of this size, you would find things happening. And there's no way you can stop that. And I can explain those areas wider when the time comes for me to explain that. But Nigeria, I feel I'm at home at Nigeria, and I feel somewhere along the line, one of my ancestors, it could be my father or grandmother or grandfather, probably they came from Nigeria, but I never tested that to know. But my spirit tells me this is home. Nigeria is home for me.
That's good. And we say welcome to Nigeria and welcome home. We are very accommodating, so you're welcome. You are in the right place. Yes. So I'm going to ask you, you stand as a voice for African American returnees and descendants across the world. What was the turning point that made you commit to this mission? And how did it begin for you personally? How did it start? Yes.
It started first, everything starts first in your mind. That's where it first started. And in my mind, I was in my country, Canada, at the time when it happens, when I get the call. When I got the calling, I was into ministry, full-time ministry. I was into full-time ministry. And I was called to come into Africa. But I didn't understand it was Africa I was called to come into. It showed me Europe. But when I went into England, I found out after doing my research, England, the whole of Europe is Africa. So I missed the interpretation of the calling until I visited Ghana. Then I get the full interpretation of my calling. And after I get that interpretation of the calling, I still didn't feel at home while I was in Ghana. I wasn't treated that way too, like I'm at home. But when I decided to come into Nigeria, after I decided to come into Nigeria, the minute I put my feet down on the soil of Nigeria, I felt that I'm at home now. I felt peace, and everything started to reveal. Everything started to reveal. I don't want to go into the spiritual aspect of it because I'm not talking to a church here right now. But everything revealed, and Nigeria accepted me as the first king and the father of the returnees to Africa and Africans around the world, which was already given to me before I came into Africa, which I wouldn't go into depths with that. Then I was crowned king in the slave court of Nigeria, where they actually tried the slaves before they sentenced them to death or to send them out of the country. That's where I was crowned king. And secondly, I was crowned king again in one of the big churches here in Nigeria. So it's not, I feel at home in Nigeria. Nigeria is home. And I found out when I came home that Nigeria is the largest university for any human being, not just the black man, but for any human being to understand, humanity. Nigeria is the country that you would have to visit, that you would have to live a little while in. If you notice clearly that Nigeria doesn't have tourism, and because she doesn't have tourism, the people are not yet exposed. And this is one of the things that I'm going to bring into Nigeria. And it's one of the biggest gifts. But to bring in tourism is not talking tourism. It's what type of tourism we are going to bring into Nigeria. This is given to me divinely as a gift to give to Nigeria, which I'm working right now to get it onto the president of Nigeria, to get it around his caucus, so that we can work towards that, not only for the development of Nigeria, but for highlighting Nigeria, so that Nigeria be seen around the world for what it really is and the contribution that Nigeria is making still to humanity on the planet. Nigeria is not all about resources under the earth. It's much more than that. So this is one of my main reasons why I'm in Nigeria here and why I am sent to Nigeria as a liberator and a bridge. When I use the word bridge, a bridge because now I have a kid in Nigeria and I'm also having another one coming at my age, coming on the way, coming right now. And it will be born in Nigeria. So when you look at it, it's divine. Everything is divine. When you look at my age, when you look at the kids and all of that, it's divine. Sadly, Nigerian constitution does not accept us, which we are working now towards getting transnational citizenship in Nigeria so that we're able to balance equator. Because if we can balance that, then we'll be able to work without giving up our hard-earned countries that our parents bled for, worked for hundreds of years without pay, raped and killed, eat their flesh were eaten, and we cannot give up that to come into Africa and just leave it. Then what did we go there for? Then the calling and the what you call the slave trade descendants, then it means nothing at all what the slaves went through. So we can't give it up. What we have to do is work towards the development of spreading this information so that people get to know Africa, see Africa with a different eyes. Because right now in America, no American can point to Africa and say that is where we came from. They all are ashamed to point to Africa and say that is where we came from. I want to put it to them, spell it out clearly, show them clearly what is Africa, who is an African, and why we are so proud to be an African. And to do that, this is where I came in as the first king and father of the returnees to Africa to make this agenda that I came to do here work for the Africans all over the world. Now, when I use the word Africans all over the world, I don't want to segregate other groups of people because all human beings are Africans. I ask this question over and over. If we look historically, you find that all human beings are Africans. Doesn't matter what tribe you come from, you are an African. You could even do gene splicing. You could go into the labs. You can do what you want to do. Everything started. I didn't write it. It was written by the historians who says that life evolves from Africa. So we all are African. And Nigeria is the only one that can actually admit and accept that all groups are African. And until we're able to do that, that's the only way we would have what we can never have global peace if we all cannot eat from one dinner table. The table belongs to all of us, but there are laws that we would have to put in.
Okay.
Because now in the United States of America, they say that all immigrants who are not American should go home. And I do agree with President Donald Trump. I do agree with him because nature position us in a position where we are supposed to be the caretaker of that geographic location without running away from it to go to other parts. Because if we are to come into Africa or Asia, and with a ship that could take all the population, everybody would want to go to America, and it doesn't make sense. As we are going into the conversation deeply, you would find it doesn't make sense at all. That means we would abandon one part of the earth and just go to one specific part because it's developed. But if you're going there with the mentality of pleasing and being a parasite to other areas of the earth without working on the geographic location where you're specifically placed, then you are serving no purpose to humanity.
Okay.
So I believe that all of us are Africans, but we must understand our boundaries.
All right. So thank you. I like the fact that you said Nigeria is home. I think you are saying that again for the second time in this short while we're having this conversation, that Nigeria is home, and you've chose Nigeria. And again, you mentioned that you are not accepted. So I remember the course of the conversation was yesterday. So you mentioned quite a bit, few challenges. I'm talking about acceptability, and those would also make me ask because having to listen to a few people around here and there, many are curious about how returnees, are received on the continent. Now, from your own experience living here, you have mentioned how receptive, Nigeria is, how you feel being at home. So I'm just going to move to the next question. Probably there's a lot we need to do to ensure that everybody is put together. You talked about the acceptance, and again, in another way, you said you're not accepted. So I think there is a lot we need to do about that. Probably you're going to put more clarification the way you feel is best. But I'm going to ask you, you are known as the first king and the father of the returnees to Africa. What projects are currently in motion, to help descendants reconnect with the continent, both symbolically and practically? I remember you talked about a mission that there's a need to unify, all the returnees and all of that. Is there a specific project that you can highlight that it's on the way?
Okay. Let me deal with the first one that you said, that we're coming into the country, how we've been accepted, and so forth. That's an area, it's a crucial area, and you find that in every group of people in different geographic location on the planet. When I'm talking personally now with me, when I came into Africa, I was not accepted as a Black African, even though the white man for 425 years keep reminding us that we are Black Africans, American. They never said to us that we are Black Americans. They said we are Black African Americans, and they're saying it yesterday, today, and they would say it forever. And they are right. They are honestly right. But when I came into Africa, I did not get that reception. I get the reception that I'm a black white man that been brainwashed and I'm an house slave. And they still see us as slave people when I came into Africa. That doesn't mean that they treated me badly. What they did to me is what they do to themselves. You know, they stole from me, they did different things and all of that. But that's a normal thing that they do among themselves. So I would not use that as a long stick, you know, to actually drive away the little courtesy and acceptance that I received in Nigeria. Nigerians were very, very nice to me, very, very nice. But one of the problem that I have with Nigerians and still have with Nigerians, and that Nigeria is the only country that I heard this language. Every man for himself and God for us all. Now, when I listen to Nigerians speak like that, I get a little timid in my spirit because every man for himself, that means I'm only looking after myself. And after myself, then my children. And after my children, God could look after the rest because I see that as corruption. Right away, I see that as corruption. And I understand where corruption is coming from. So that has to be fixed. And that I also would do some seminars where people would be able to speak to me more freely. Right now, I'm on the internet, which I am not so very comfortable. I can't flex around, I can't move around, I can't express myself the way I would like to. But I'm trying to do my best here right now. So in that area, that's how I see Nigerians, and they have to unlearn and relearn because what they learn is terrible for them. And I don't know if they learn it in church or they learn it in school. I don't know where they learn it. But wherever they learn it, they have to unlearn that and relearn. So we have to go into some critical thinking, you know, and put things in its right perspective so that we have a new mind developing in Africa to suit this 21st century. Now, on the business aspect of things, many of the African people, and not just African, because when I said the whole world is Africa. So many people in the world, and that's why I'm the first king and father of the returnees to African Africans around the world. And when I use the word Africans around the world, I'm talking about white, black, pink, yellow, because all of them did evil things, unpleasant things, you know, to people. The white people did it. They participated widely in slavery. The blacks did it. They participated in slavery. So I'm not blaming just the black for slavery. I am blaming all race that participate in slavery, not just the white man, because the white man is just 10%, 7% rather, that pull themselves out from the Portuguese race and call themselves white to commit this type of atrocity. And plus the Brazilians, they did the same thing too. The Portuguese, they did the same thing. But the Portuguese are the original white people that you have on the face of the earth. But a class from that, a higher class for themselves, or then they call themselves white, and they did a lot of atrocities. But when we talk about business expansion, many people, when you talk about business expansion in America, or you talk about business expansion in Africa, in the continent of Africa, they believe, okay, he wants to connect me with a business in America, or he wants to connect me with a business in Africa or in Asia or whatever. That is a part of business expansion, but that's not where business expansion starts. Business expansion is a seed of growth. And I would have to explain that more in my seminars when I say business expansion, what I mean. Looking at a, a complex, a shopping complex with many businesses inside, that is not business expansion. Those are individual businesses that are inside there doing their individual things and making their individual money, their salaries to maintain their family. That is not business expansion. So I come to sell business expansion, and I don't want to leak out the formula without actually speaking to the government. Because when you leak this formula out, I find people siphon it and mess everything up. And when you go to start, it makes it so hard for you to start because they already spoil what is wrong, and people see it as fake or something that they think they know already. And that's the reason why I don't spell it out until I reach to the right appropriate people in the business aspect of building the country where I would put that out. So I don't know if I covered some of the areas that,
Okay.
because you
Yes.
spoke widely on a lot of things.
Yes, that's
Yes.
okay. That's
So
fine.
that
So
is,
you want to keep it for
yeah,
now, and
that's the
that's
business
okay.
expansion.
That's okay. Yes. So you talked about speaking to the government, and that will just make me talk about the petition. You petitioned the Nigerian Senate, for the Make Your Country Your Home initiative. How was this received, and why is formal and constitutional recognition important for descendants seeking a homecoming?
Okay. That's pretty wide. That's pretty wide. First of all, I would like to criticize your media first, because without criticism, we can't get anything better at all. What I observe, and I'm talking because a man with knowledge is a wise man learned from observation, and a stupid man learned from experience. And what I observe with the media here in Africa, not just Nigeria, but why I use Nigeria so much, I give you my quote. A dead Nigeria is a dead Africa, and a dead Africa is an unbalanced world. If you don't have Nigeria, the rest of Africa would take 500 years before it could come together again. So you need Africa. Getting back to the media is removing Mother Africa clothing and showing her naked to the rest of the world. And because of doing that, the disrespect is so high for Africans. Africans are ashamed to point to Africa and say that is where we came from. The disrespect is too high. Now, why I'm saying that? Every little thing, if somebody vomits in Nigeria, somebody's gonna put a camera on them, because now you have the camera. What we used to take us to the moon in 1968, we have a better machine in our hands today, which is the telephone. The telephone is so good. It's a recording studio. It's a camera. Just think about it. It's everything. And they would record that information without even thinking what they're doing, putting it on the internet, putting it in the news to make headlines, and spreading it around the world. And people are seeing Mother Africa nakedness. And this is very bad, because the media is the one actually doing these things. And I criticize the media at that level. I am not saying that if people are dying in Nigeria and we need it to stop, we shouldn't do that. Of course, we have a right to ask for help. Who wouldn't ask for help? Every government, even the United States of America, have embassies around the world that doing things and asking for help. United States in more debts than any other country in the world. The only difference with the United States and Africa, they would never pay their debts because the money printed, by them, so they would never pay the debt. But every country needs help. But the media doesn't have to go that type of way, to expose every single thing that been seen are done in Nigeria or any part of Africa to the rest of the world. That is things we are supposed to keep to ourselves. That's our mother clothing that we are raising up there, and we have no right to do that. Now, I am not here to ask Americans or no slave descendant to pack their bags and run back to Africa. I would be very clumsy in thinking to do something like that. Because if I do something like that, all what we worked for, our ancestors worked for, would go as waste. I am not asking them to do that. I am asking Africa to give us a transnational citizenship so that we'll be able to work for our country while we are out of the country. We are placed there divinely, as I said that before. God don't allow things to happen in the magnitude that things happen to us, dying over 50 million in the Mediterranean Sea. And if you look at the effect of it right now, it is still happening. That one I don't want to even get into right now, even though that our people are going through the same thing. We talk about, I think yesterday we were talking about immigration, modern day slavery, and all of these things. Forced labor. We talk about forced labor, but when you look at forced labor, nobody can force nobody to labor unless they are like skills. That only when. If you go to America, nobody's going to force you to work. Your stomach is going to force you to have 3 jobs.
You talked about the media earlier before hitting on the petition and your request from the Nigerian Senate. So I like to say that it's okay, it's good to criticize, put it on our face so we know where we are getting it wrong and what we need to do right. But I want to say again that Super News TV It's a distinguished news media outfit. We project positivity. We speak about every good thing about Nigeria. Any negative energy, we don't even accommodate that here. And I must say that that is the spirit. So I understand the angle you're coming from. And even here at Sook News Television, we don't encourage it. What we encourage is those good things, those positivity. Nigeria is thriving, Africa is doing well. Why not project it? And that's exactly what we do here. I want to move to this next question quickly, which will really be moving into the core, which is modern slavery. So I want to ask you, let's connect the past and the present together now. So even though the chains of colonial slavery are gone, its pattern appears to reflect in present day struggles. Of course, we see the way people struggle here and there every day, in different forms. So in your own view, in what ways does history repeat itself through new forms of exploitation? How does history repeat itself through new forms of exploitation?
We have a saying that history repeats itself, but we use those phrases actually in the wrong place, at the wrong time of happening. Uh, Slavery never ended, never really ended. And we are still carrying the chains, us. We're still carrying that chain in us, in Africa, and out of Africa. Even slave descendants are carrying that chain right now. It never really ended. It just take a different form so that you wouldn't have the understanding of actually what is going on. Africa and Africans never been free. If you were free and out of slavery, then things would not have been the way it's happening right now. And when we're talking modern day slavery, that one I would accept. There is a modern day slavery because now you are not actually forced. You are not forced. Psychologically, the psychological effect cause you to voluntarily put yourself in modern day slavery because of material needs and so forth. But slavery of itself never really ended. And the only way we can end slavery is to unlearn everything that we learn and we learn new things. And when I say new things, there's nothing new under the sun, but our ancestors had a way in running things. If you look at Africa right now, Africa is not run politically. No, Africa is kingdom rule, like it or not, is kingdom rule, and that is what's causing the division because the outside force still wanted to run on their political system, which they manipulate, which they are running, but it's kingdom rule because the kings, they still have that rebel mind that every man for himself, and they have it that I belong to this tribe and I'm running this tribe. So Africa is kingdom rule and it's not political rule. And the slavery that we're talking about never ended. It's a struggle between the slave masters and the enslaved. We want them that been enslaved. So I never see slavery really ended. Uh, we are not forced now into ships and taken to the Caribbean and South America and North America. We are not doing that anymore. But what we are doing is that we are working through the minds of the politicians to make sure that things get so rough and unruly that you would have no choice and that you would have to end up in that situation that we call modern day slavery. And because of science development, the development in science, people want to live forever. Soldiers are dying on the battlefield and we can't replace them right away with robots because robots need a lot of energy, water, and a lot of resources from Africa for them to function. So the only way that can happen, we have to go into making people live longer than they're supposed to live. And to do that, we need body parts. And because we need body parts, we would encourage Africans or any person from an undeveloped country to come into area or to have themselves, given their kidneys, their lungs, their blood, or whatever, so that they can get to have human beings that they want to live at up to a certain time so that they can exploit. And they're exploiting now on body parts. So that we're looking now at what you call modern day slavery. Modern day slavery is a nice term to use. Modern day slavery, but what the slavery is all about. I used to give away 3 pints of blood for a year. Every year I used to do that. But I thought I was doing it for scientific research, which it was scientific research. But the real research is to able to make sure that it can function in certain areas. Now we have in Japan, I don't know if you know this, but in Japan now, what the Japanese are doing, they are make sure they are calling on Africans now to go into Japan to live. They already build a blood bank and they come up scientifically with blood that can work on any group of people if there's an accident. So the thing is about sustaining humanity. And that is what the modern day slavery is all about. Modern day slavery is not taking young girls to prostitute or to go, this is the impression that we have, to go to do jobs. Machines now are doing those things. Robots are doing the job. So we don't need people for that purpose. But your DNA is badly needed. Your melanin is badly needed. Your body parts. Look at Russia and Ukraine. Right now, the soldiers are dying by the millions, and they are pretty young. So when they have this type of injuries, you need body parts. And where can produce the best body parts is Africa, because Africans is what they want to use.
Okay.
I don't want to get,
Okay.
too deep into it.
Into it.
No.
I get it. I get it. So if you are saying that slavery never end, well, which I mentioned at the beginning of the program, that it's only changed its language and the methods. Yeah. So you're particularly saying that the influence of the colonial masters probably they are still there. I mean, maybe that is good. You're going to attend to that in the second question that I want to ask you now. And again, we have just 5 minutes, to wrap up. So I have 2 questions to ask you in 5 minutes. So let's try and make a good use of the time. So there is a long-standing conversation about former colonial powers and whether their influence remains or has simply taken new forms. Do you believe these countries still enjoy a form of superiority today? And why do some African nations remain dependent on them?
As I told you, that I'm getting a little complication with the hearing device that I have. But we were saying the last thing that I picked up is why some African leaders are depending on, the external force to help them. Is this
Yes, and the colonial masters. I'm asking that do you think that power is still there? Do they still enjoy that superiority? Do they still enjoy that influence? Is the power still there? And why do we have some African countries still depending on them?
Now, if you look at your history, every African leader that rise up and want to do something, they are taken down and turned into manure. I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about. But every African leader, it's not like you don't have good African leaders. You don't have visionaries. You have the best visionaries you can think about. Everything started in Africa. Slavery ended on paper. If you notice in the African continent, until now, reparation is not properly paid, which is not even supposed to pay to Africa, but to us, the slave descendants. But it's ended on paper. But slavery is not ended, it's still on. So all the leaders in Africa that you are claiming, and the people are cursing their leaders are not good, their leaders are bad, or whatever the case may be, that is democracy that we're talking about. Democracy is for the people. So they set it up in that way so that they can propagate what they want to propagate to the people, and the people would scream on their government, and you would have an unbalanced economy, an unbalanced system, a lawless system where that would never work simply because slavery is not abolished. What abolish is, and it had to abolish because it makes no sense today when transportation is how it is the slave trade in terms of putting you on ships and taking you out to America. That abolished. But modern day slavery, as you see it, that's we're calling it modern day slavery because slavery itself is not abolished. And slavish mentality is still in the mind of people because of what we propagate. And not only the slave masters propagating that, but our governments, our people, our news agencies are propagating that. They would show you on the movies. Imagine, you would be looking at American movies, you would be looking at Indian movies and Chinese movies. But how much people around the world, even Black African Americans are looking to Black African movies. We don't look at them at all. So the thing is propagating what they want them to propagate in terms of Africa. And all Africa should remain in slavery. Africans are still in slavery. And these people that are working as presidents, they are no president in Africa. They are CEOs, general overseers. That's what they are in Africa. And we are seeing them as the father of the country. But really and truly, they cannot represent as the father of the country because they are under supervision. And that's the way they have to work. So Africa would remain like this for a very long time. It would remain like this until we revolutionize our minds and wake up and learn what we learn and start relearning the things that we're supposed to learn that our ancestors left for us a very long time ago. We have to
All
do
right.
that.
All
But when
right.
we are doing that, we must keep in mind that the other people, the other groups belongs to us. And we have to carve a way that all of us live together. Because if we don't carve that way, they already developed. And they would come in here, they came first with gunpowder, and they wiped our ancestors out and take and do what they want to do. So now, if you're going to say Europe is not going to get light, and we are not going to give them this, and we're not going to give them that, well, I'll tell you the truth. They will take it by force. They will take it by force. Gaddafi tried to do the same thing. He is gone. Lumba tried to do the same thing. He is gone. Nkrumah tried to do the same thing and say the same thing. He is gone. So there is no way we're going to win when these people already have satellites. They are over our heads like gods. How are you going to win them if you don't collaborate now and start working with them, acknowledge them, and see all of us as one African people on the continent and work for Mother Earth wherever we are to sustain
Okay.
humanity? If we
All
don't
right.
do that, we are going to be in trouble.
Thank you very much, King Hartman. I'm just going to take one final question, and I want you to also lend your voice because today being the International Day for the Abolition of Slave Trade. I want you to lend your voice. Yes, what do you have to say about the same cause? And finally, I want to say, despite the weight of history and the complexities of today, what gives you hope for Africa and the descendants searching for home? What gives you hope? Yeah. So I just want you to do this in 1-2 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, it's beautiful, a beautiful question. What gives me hope? That because of the speed and the technology that we have today, we can bring ourselves today, and we are doing it, bring ourselves to the level of knowledge that our, uh, our ancestors had, to the knowledge of where our slave masters at right now. We can build our own satellites. We can do a lot of things. And that gives me the hope that Africa can change. But the only little dark cloud that is surrounding my hope is unity and love. Because if we don't love ourselves, we wouldn't be able to love humanity. If we don't love ourselves, we can't love humanity. So we have to start loving ourselves and stop loving tribes, because tribes is just a little segregation of things and companies that we put together so we can govern and do what we want to do lawlessly. But if we respect ourselves, start loving ourselves, start loving our neighbors as it's written in the scripture codes, if we break them, we would see that. We would start loving humanity, and the rest of groups wouldn't have a problem with us, and we wouldn't have a problem with them. And we all would live in harmony on this face of the earth. I'm just bringing out a book right now called Strategy for Global Peace, and I would release it pretty early, right? It's called Strategy for Global Peace. I would send you a copy of that book, and you would see what I'm talking about. Today, we can live on this face of the earth without toiling because we are becoming like gods. So we wouldn't even have to toil as much as we are toiling today. We would have robots actually doing everything for us. So why need to be fighting each other for what? We don't have any need to fight for each other, fighting each other when we already have the knowledge to do anything that we want to do. And all we have to do is put love in the place of hate. And once we do that, we will live in unity among ourselves as human beings on the face of the earth. And that's what I'm praying for. And that's what I see. And that's the hope that I see, that we could live as one humanity on the face of the earth and
Thank you
represent all
very
life
much.
form.
Thank you very much. And I like that submission mentioning, talking about hope, talking about unity. I think those words are two key words that are important in every settings, in every gathering, in every community. If you find love, you find hope, then people in that environment will definitely thrive and they will do well. I must say a very big thank you for your time and insight. And I am sure that some people don't have some of this information that you have just shared. And I mean, that's why it's important for us to keep talking about it, and so we can all learn. Once again, I say thank you, Your Royal Majesty, King Prophet Herbert Calvin Hartman. And I want to say that you please enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you for coming.
And thank you for the people who have been listening to your program. And I hope that I have this opportunity to come on the program again, better prepared, to answer your questions. Thank you very much. And
definitely, we're going to invite you again because we actually do not have the a whole of time to do all of that. A lot of questions to ask you, but limited time. We'll see you again some other time.